Hello, everyone, and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is, of course, our day for reading our The Mystical Lands Chronicles Book 2, Christmas Crystals and the Chrysalis by Karen E. Myers. We are on Chapter 4 of this wonderful story, and we will continue on with that. So, Chapter 4. Lila trudged down the path into the whispering woods, a shiver running down her spine as she gazed into the snow-laden branches beyond. The trees stood like ancient sentinels, their gnarled limbs reaching out, beckoning her closer. She breathed deeply, the cold air stinging her lungs. Fox, rabbit, and squirrel followed closely behind, their eyes wide and cautious. "Stay close," Lila whispered, her voice barely audible above the wind's mournful howl. The animals nodded in agreement, their ears twitching with unease. As they ventured deeper into the whispering woods, Lila felt a growing sense of foreboding. It was as if the very air around them stirred with malevolence. Shadows danced in the corners of her vision, making her question what was real and what was merely the product of her imagination. "Can you feel it?" she asked, her voice trembling. "The anger here." Fox flicked his tail and replied, "Yes, something is amiss. We must be on our guard." "Agreed," added Rabbit, his little nose wriggling nervously. Lila pushed onwards, emboldened by the presence of her animal companions. They moved in a tight formation, each one ready to protect the others from unseen threats. As they journeyed farther, Lila noticed strange markings carved into the bark of the trees. The symbols were twisted and jagged, resembling claws or fangs, intertwined with serpentine shapes that seemed to writhe before her eyes. "Those markings," Lila whispered, her body overcome with a wave of adrenaline. "I've seen them before. On the gates of Northshire, the day everyone disappeared." "Be careful," Lila warned Squirrel, her bushy tail flicking back and forth anxiously. "The cursed ones must be nearby." "Yes, I agree," Lila murmured, swallowing hard. "We must find the villagers and save them from whatever fate has befallen them. I am sure the cursed ones have done something awful." As they pressed on, the strange symbols grew more numerous and sinister. It was as though the very trees were screaming in pain, their twisted gnarled forms dominating the landscape. An, an acrid stench hung in the air, making Lila's nose wrinkle in disgust. Muffled groans and weeping could be heard in the distance, like the hopeless cries of the doomed. Eventually, Lila and her companions stumbled upon a vast earthen pit laid out in front of them in the forest floor, its depths hidden by the impenetrable darkness. Despaired cries echoed from within, confirming Lila's worst fears. "Quickly," she urged her companions, her voice strained with emotion. "We must help them." Working together, Lila and the animals formed a plan to rescue the imprisoned villagers of Northshire. Rabbit, ever observant, spotted a nearby vine winding around a thick tree trunk. Squirrel scrambled up the trunk with ease, snipping away at the vine with her sharp teeth until it was free. With his keen eyesight, Fox spied a large boulder rooted deeply in the ground and began to wrap the vine tightly around its circumference, ensuring that it wouldn't slip or give way when pulled upon by the villagers. Finally, Lila lowered the rope vine down to the distressed villagers, allowing them to climb out of the cavernous pit. One by one, for the next hour, they pulled the weary souls from the crevice, each villager's eyes wide with terror and gratitude. Lila searched the familiar faces, her heart sinking when she realized her mother was not among them. "Where is my mother?" Lila asked the villagers, desperation clawing at her throat. "Taken," answered one of the rescued men, Mr. Grainsworth, his voice hoarse and weak, "by the cursed ones. They said the Dark King wanted her on his Skull Island lair." The lost villagers stood shivering together in a group along the forest path, shaken and traumatized. A cold fury ignited within Lila. She knew what she must do. The Dark King would pay for his transgressions, and she would save her mother from his vile clutches. She wanted to leave immediately to face the next leg of her adventure, the path that would eventually lead her to the luminary and the fulfillment of her destiny as the protector. But she hesitated, uncertain about the fate of the villagers. Would they find their way back to the village through the mystical lands? Lila pondered whether she would have to help them on their return trip. All at once, in the stillness of the whispering woods, a shimmering veil of silver mist appeared before Lila, her companions, and the displaced villagers. The air hummed with magic as the mist parted, revealing an ethereal fairy with delicate, iridescent wings and a glittered like 1,000 stars. Her enchanting smile warmed Lila's heart as she approached. "Your journey has not gone unnoticed, young protector," she said, softly, her melodious voice casting a spell over Lila and the animals. "You have come far, but the path to the luminary is fraught with danger. Please help us," Lila implored. "We must save my mother and defeat the Dark King, and these poor villagers must get back to the Northshire." The mystical nodded in understanding and turned to the villagers, who huddled together afraid. "My name is Fay," she told them, "and I will guide you back to Northshire, where you can begin to rebuild your lives. But first I shall bestow upon Lila the knowledge to overcome the obstacles that lie ahead." With a graceful wave of her hand, Fay sent a cascade of sparkling fairy dust swirling around Lila. As the particles touched her skin, Lila felt an urge of wisdom and new-found abilities coursing through her veins. She blinked, astonished at the sudden clarity of her thoughts and the confidence swelling within her. "I cannot thank you enough, Fay," Lila whispered, awed by the gift that she had been given. Go forth and fear not, dear one," Fay replied, her eyes filled with compassion. "The mysticals are with you." With that, she led the grateful villagers on their journey home to Northshire, leaving Lila and her animal friends to continue their quest. Their winding trail took them deeper into the whispering woods, where the air grew colder with each step. Fay's gift allowed Lila to easily navigate the treacherous terrain, but she knew that the crystal caverns would test her like never before. Anticipation of the challenges ahead tightened like a coil in her chest, and she clenched her fists to quell the tension. As Lila walked along the path, she envisioned meeting the luminary for the very first time. She imagined him to be an ancient, wrinkled old wizard with matted white hair, yellow decaying teeth, and spindly bony fingers. "Remember, Lila," Rabbit said softly, sensing her unease. "You have the strength within you to face whatever lies ahead." Lila nodded, drawing courage from her friends. "We can do this together." At last Lila and her companions arrived at the innermost depths of the forest, where tall trees with snow-coated trunks stood like a wall of ice guarding this hidden corner of the world. The undergrowth was thick with prickly branches and sharp stems. They traveled along the path according to Gilly's direction, until they found the ancient oak tree where they were looking for. This single mammoth tree, with its widespread branches, loomed massively over them, its dark silhouette visible against the light of the rising moon. Ivy and dead vines twisted around its mighty base and up into its hollow trunk. Towering above the surrounding trees, the giant oak was like a benevolent king in the presence of his subjects. Seeing the majestic tree just as Gilly had described in such detail, let them know that they had reached their destination. Just beyond the old oak was the mysterious entrance to the crystal caverns. But the closer they got to the entrance, the more sinister darkness pulsated from within, promising doom if they entered. Lila hesitated. Then she took a deep breath, gripped the magic crystal tightly in her hand, and stepped forward into the darkness of the cave. The dimness of the crystal caverns enveloped Lila, and for a moment she was blind to her surroundings. As her eyes adjusted, an ethereal glow emerged, illuminating the cavern walls with a soft, otherworldly light. The walls themselves pulsed as if the very heart of the earth beat within them. "By the mysticals," Lila whispered, both awestruck and intimidated by the beauty that surrounded her. "Indeed," a deep melodic voice responded from the shadows. "The heart of magic resides here." Lila turned towards her voice, her sea-green eyes wide with awe. From the shadows emerged a striking figure, cloaked in elegant flowing robes of deep midnight blue and silver. His long dark silken hair framed a chiseled porcelain face. His intense blue eyes glittered like sapphires, as bright as the crystals surrounding him. Lila's heart raced with a sudden excitement as she felt the spark of an unexpected attraction. He appeared young, only a little older than she was, and vibrant, yet he carried himself with this wisdom of 1,000 lifetimes. But she realized since she had first been called by magic, hadn't she, too, felt burdened beyond her years. "Who are you?" Lila asked hesitantly, her fingers tightening around the magic crystal she held. "I am the luminary," the handsome elven wizard answered, his voice echoing through the caverns like a gentle breeze. "I have been waiting for your arrival, Lila, protector of the mysticals." "But I don't understand." Lila's voice trembled with uncertainty. "What is my role in all of this? How am I supposed to become the protector?" "Let me show you." The luminary, in a majestic motion, extended his hand, and a shimmering image appeared before them. It depicted a vision of prophecy from the ancient times, a powerful story about the struggle between darkness and light. "Long ago," the luminary began, his voice resonating with the weight of history, "the prophecy of the protector foretold the coming of two souls that would appear in the shadows of time, and the chaos ones. One would be guiding light against the encroaching darkness, while the other would stand as the shield that protected the innocent." Boldly the luminary read the words of the prophecy aloud. "When darkness threatens the world's demise, a human maiden of magic blood shall rise. She is the shield who shall join with the light to quell evil's reign and set things aright. Their courage shall restore the balance once more, and they shall bring peace after the war. Two souls shall come to dispel the night, a guiding light and a shield of right. Beyond shadows of time they will be found, the chosen ones with powers profound. The protector wields a shield to guard and saves the innocent with a crystal's shard. The light illuminates all the lands and returns the power to the people's hands. Be ready for that fateful day when the skies turn black and bring dismay. Faith must be found in the darkest hour. In courage we grow to reclaim our power. The luminary's words weighed heavily in the air, as if they had been stowed away in the depths of time and only recently uncovered. Lila's thoughts raced as she questioned what the prophecy meant and her role in it. Before the protector was the only figure she had known about. Perhaps there was more she didn't understand. "Which one am I?" Lila asked. "You are the protector, the shield that protects," he replied. His gaze locked with hers. "You have been chosen to wield the power of the magic crystal and stand against the Dark King and his cursed ones." "Then who is the other chosen one?" she questioned, still struggling to comprehend the new parts of the prophecy. "Ah, that is where our paths intertwine," the luminary said with a mysterious smile. "I am the guiding light, destined to aid you in your journey and share the burden of this great responsibility." As Lila digested the enormity of these revelations, a mixture of fear and uncertainty bubbled within her. She knew that the task ahead was daunting, but she also understood that it was her destiny to fill the prophecy. "Will you help me?" she asked the luminary, her voice tinged with hope. "Of course," he answered, his eyes shining with resolve. "Together we will face the darkness and protect those who cannot protect themselves." She looked at the images the luminary had created, swallowing against her fears. "Can we really defeat the Dark King?" "Have faith, Lila," the luminary reassured. "The magic bound between us, combined with your connection to the mysticals, will give us the strength we need." Lila was comforted and reassured by the luminary's words, thankful that she had found someone to aid and guide her in fulfilling the ancient prophecy. Much to her surprise, the luminary was not a withered old wizard as she had envisioned, but instead a youthful and attractive, appearing both wise and kind. The luminary led Lila deeper into the crystal caverns, where the walls shimmered with the ethereal light, casting kaleidoscopic patterns upon the ground. Stalactites and stalagmites of translucent crystals reached towards another like lovers yearning for an eternal embrace. The air was alive with magic, thrumming in rhythm with the beat of Lila's heart. "Here," the luminary said, gesturing to a table laden with sparkling crystal shards. "These crystals are the lifeblood of our world, providing power to the mysticals and sustaining all that we hold dear." Lila's eyes widened as she gazed upon the array of glimmering crystals. Each was unique, varying in size and shape, but all radiated with the inner light that seemed to speak directly to her soul. The luminary tenderly reached out and touched the magic crystal hanging about Lila's neck on the cord. She could feel the warmth of his fingers brush against her skin. The crystal sparkled within the shadowy caverns, its facet radiating a blissful light in every direction. "This is the shard of illumination. With it you can harness the power of light to guide your way through the darkness," he said, his voice like velvet. He closed his eyes and whispered an incantation. Lila's magic crystal shard blazed with a brilliant radiance that filled the chamber. Lila watched in awe. Feeling the magic resonate within her, Lila gingerly touched her magic crystal, realizing now that it had been destined for her all along, the shard of illumination. A warmth spread through her, and she understood that the shard, her magic crystal, found long ago in the woods outside her village, recognized her as its true bearer. Each crystal has its own unique properties, and learning to wield their power will be essential on your journey, the luminary explained, his deep voice soothing and melodic. There are spells for healing, protection, and even summoning the forces of nature. She was captivated by his voice, as though it were a magnet drawing her closer to him. Lila felt a connection forming between them, an unspoken understanding that blossomed as into something more profound. Their eyes met for what seemed like an eternity, and she saw her own wondered reflection in the deep depths of his gaze. "Teach me," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the hum of the crystalline vibrations. "Of course," he replied. He began to show her the power of the crystals, and together they delved into the mysteries of crystal magic. Their bond strengthened with each spell woven and secret shared. Moments turned into hours as Lila worked, the passage of time marked only by the shifting patterns of light upon the walls. Finally the luminary raised a hand, and a sumptuous feast appeared before them. The aroma of roasted chestnuts and spiced cider filled the air. "Christmas is a time for warmth, love, and celebration," he said, as they sat down to partake in the festive meal. "Let us share in this moment, a respite from the darkness that lies ahead." As they ate, forest elves entered the chamber, their voices harmonizing in sweet carols that echoed throughout the caverns. The music wrapped around Lila like a warm embrace, lifting her spirits and igniting a flame of hope within her soul. The luminary's gaze lingered on Lila, admiration shining in his eyes. "Your courage and dedication are truly inspiring, Lila," he murmured, reaching across the table and gently grasping her hand. "I am honored to stand beside you in this battle." Lila felt her cheeks flush with warmth, overcome with an emotion she had never dared to entertain. Butterflies fluttered in the pit of her stomach. She looked into his eyes, seeing not just the wisdom of ages, but also the vulnerability of a young man who, like her, sought solace in another's touch. "Thank you," she whispered, her words a fragile promise suspended between them. In that crystalline chamber, amongst the echoes of ancient magic and the melodies of Christmas, the bond between Lila and the luminary deepened. Their destinies intertwined like the roots of the ageless trees. They were two souls brought together by fate, united in purpose and bound by a love that would defy the darkness itself. After their meal, a gentle breeze whispered through the crystal caverns, weaving its way between the stalactites and glimmering crystals. The soft glow of the luminous crystals illuminated Lila's face as she went back to practicing her newly acquired spells under the watchful eye of the luminary. With each successful incantation, confidence blossomed within her. "Excellent," the luminary praised, his voice resonating like a warm embrace. "You have a natural talent for magic, Lila." "Thank you for believing in me," she replied, her emerald eyes sparkling with pride. But beneath her newfound strength, a gnawing anxiety plagued her thoughts. Memories of her mother's loving touch, their laughter echoing through their humble cottage in Northshire, haunted her dreams and weighed heavily on her. The next day, as the luminary announced they were moving on from simple spells into the library of research that would allow them to find the Dark King's weaknesses, he paused and looked at Lila in concern. "Is something troubling you?" the luminary asked, sensing her unease. I missed a page. Oh. "All right," the luminary began, his voice steady and determined. "Our strategy must be precise and powerful. The Dark King is not to be underestimated." "Tell me about the spell of containment," Lila implored, her pulse racing at the thought of wielding such a formidable magic. "First we shall use the binding crystals from the crystal caverns," the luminary explained, displaying the small luminescent gems in the palm of his hand. "These will allow us to channel our combined energies into a single, focused spell." The small gems refracted the light in the cavern into rainbows in the luminary's palm. "Once we're near enough to the Dark King's lair," he continued, "I will create an ethereal barrier surrounding Skull Island, preventing the cursed ones from interfering. While I maintain this barrier, you, Lila, will enter the fortress and confront the Dark King." Lila tried to suppress her fear at the thought of facing the Dark King alone, but it seeped through her like a cold stream. "During your confrontation, you'll need to cast the spell of containment. With your magic crystal in hand, visualize a sphere of pure light expanding outward from the crystal, encircling the Dark King, and rendering him powerless. Remember," he cautioned, "the success of this spell relies on the strength of your convictions and the purity of your heart. You must believe in yourself, Lila. Only then will you truly be the protector the prophecy foretold." Taking a deep breath, Lila nodded resolutely. "I understand. I can do this. For my mother, for the mystical lands, and to preserve the balance of magic." Down in the depths of the subterranean crystal maze, Lila and the luminary toiled away, preparing for what was to come. Once, after a particularly grueling session, Lila began to talk about her anguish and ire from having lost her father and her brother in the Great Renewing. "It was so traumatic," she sobbed, tears forming in the edges of her eyes. "I don't think I will ever understand why it had to be." The luminary nodded sympathetically. "No one really knows why such a horrible events must take place," he said. "Even the enlightened ones do not fully comprehend the great plan. Some things may never be known." Lila sighed as her tears rolled down her cheeks. Even though she felt heavy sorrow, Lila was thankful that she was able to let out her true emotions with this newfound companion. As their preparations ended, Lila and the luminary stood at the entrance of the crystal caverns, gazing out upon the snow-covered landscape that stretched before them. The weight of the impending battle hung heavy in the air, and the tension between them was palpable. "Are you ready?" the luminary asked, his voice steady despite the uncertainty that clouded his eyes. Lila took a deep breath. The cold, crisp winter air filled her lungs as she steadied herself. "Yes," she said, a word, a promise forged in iron resolve. Then let us embark on our quest to save your mother and restore the balance of the mystical lands, the luminary declared, his hand finding hers with a reassuring squeeze. In the other hand he held a leather pouch containing the binding crystals, a spell book, and some provisions for the trip. Lila still carried the weighty satchel she had brought from home, filled with fresh provisions from the mystical friends. With their hearts bound by love and purpose, Lila and the luminary stepped forth into the whispering woods, leaving the comfort and safety of the crystal caverns behind. Fox, rabbit, and squirrel, who had been waiting for Lila all along, bounded out from behind a large boulder to join them, the echoes of ancient magic reverberating through the trees, and the wind seemed to warn them of danger ahead. Together Lila and the luminary, accompanied by their animal companions, would face the darkness and emerge victorious, united by a connection that transcended time and defied fate itself. Despite the weight on their shoulders, Lila's newly acquired confidence in her abilities and her faith in the luminary by her side gave her hope. Still, as she gazed upon the mysterious woodland path before her, Lila couldn't help but be overwhelmed by the unknown that lay ahead. She had to face the darkness, save her mother, and fulfill the destiny of the protector, without knowing what awaited her at the end. With trepidation and the cold wind whipping at her back, she strengthened her resolve for the journey that was to come. And that is the end of chapter 4. The next week we will color a page from chapter 4. And of course, I hope you have enjoyed the coloring that we have done here today as well. Thank you all very much for listening and for hanging out with us. I hope that you are enjoying the reading of the Mystical Lands Chronicles Book 2. And of course, Karen, thank you so much for writing such a fantastic edge of your seat kind of story. Until next time, always remember to like, comment, and subscribe to any YouTube artist that you enjoy. And of course, always remember to relax, color, and stay safe, everyone. Until next time, bye-bye for now.